When we hear the term Bride of Christ, what image comes to mind? For many, it evokes a picture of purity, beauty, and perhaps a certain passivity. Someone waiting patiently for the bridegroom to arrive. But this image, while containing elements of truth, only scratches the surface of a much deeper, more dynamic reality. The biblical portrayal of the bride is not one of a silent partner, but of a powerful active participant in God's grand redemptive story. She is called to be a warrior, a wise counselor, and a co-regent, standing alongside her king. Her identity is profoundly rooted in a purpose established at the very beginning of creation, a purpose that calls for strength, courage, and unwavering partnership with God. The importance of the bride is woven throughout the entire biblical narrative, from the Garden of Eden to the final chapters of Revelation. She is not merely an afterthought or a decorative element in God's plan. Instead, she is central to its unfolding. Her journey is one of restoration, a process of rediscovering her original calling and stepping into the fullness of her identity. This journey involves understanding that her role is not secondary but essential. She is called to engage in the spiritual battles of this world, to nurture and protect the promises of God, and to reflect His glory to a watching world. Her story is our story, a call to every believer to awaken to their divine potential and active role. This concept of an active partner is beautifully encapsulated in a Hebrew term found in the book of Genesis. This phrase, often translated simply as helper, carries a weight and significance far beyond what our modern English word suggests. It speaks not of a subordinate assistant, but of a vital ally, a rescuer with the strength to save. Understanding this original term is the key that unlocks the true identity of the bride. It reframes our understanding of partnership, not just in marriage but in our relationship with God. It challenges us to see ourselves as He sees us, strong, capable, and indispensable to His work in the world. As we journey through the scriptures, we will see this identity embodied by remarkable women who shaped the course of history. They were not perfect, but they were powerful. They faced impossible odds, battled against the forces of darkness, and held fast to the promises of God, ensuring their continuation from one generation to the next. Their stories are not just historical accounts. They are prophetic pictures of the bride in action. They teach us what it means to live with wisdom, courage, and an unshakable faith, preparing us to embrace our own calling as part of God's restored and glorious bride, ready for the work He has set before us. To truly grasp the bride's prophetic role, we must return to the very beginning, to the Garden of Eden. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 18, after creating Adam, God declares, "It is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him." The Hebrew words used here are. For centuries, the word has been misinterpreted, often reduced to mean a simple assistant, a subordinate who performs secondary tasks. This misunderstanding has had profound consequences, diminishing the perceived role and value of women, and by extension, the metaphorical bride of Christ. But the original Hebrew reveals a much more powerful and dignifying truth that we must reclaim. The word is used 21 times in the Old Testament. Apart from its use in Genesis to describe the woman, it is almost exclusively used to describe God Himself. He is the of Israel, the one who comes to rescue His people in their moment of desperate need. He is the strong helper, the divine rescuer, who intervenes with power and might when all other hope is lost. When God uses this same word to describe the woman He is about to create, He is not describing an assistant. He is creating a strong ally, a warrior with the capacity to provide essential life-saving aid. This is a staggering statement about her identity and purpose. The second part of the phrase, Mao, is just as significant. It is often translated as suitable for him or corresponding to him. This implies a sense of deep connection and similarity, but it also carries the meaning of being face-to-face or in front of. It suggests a partnership of equals, standing opposite one another, able to look each other in the eye. It speaks of a relationship where two distinct but equal beings come together to form a complete whole. The woman was not created to stand behind the man, but beside him, face to face, as a powerful counterpart. She brings strengths that he does not possess on his own. This blueprint, therefore, is not just about the first man and woman. It is the foundational model for humanity's calling to partner with God. We are all created to be strong allies who work alongside God in His mission to bring healing and restoration to a broken world. This identity is at the very core of what it means to be the bride of Christ. We are not called to be passive observers in God's story. We are called to be active, courageous participants, bringing our unique strengths to bear in the great spiritual conflict, standing face to face with the challenges of our time as God's indispensable partners. Eve, the first wise, is often remembered for her role in the fall of humanity. Her story is frequently told as a cautionary tale about deception and disobedience. While this is part of her narrative, focusing solely on this aspect causes us to miss the profound significance of her creation and the nature of the battle she faced. God created her as a powerful, a strong ally for Adam. Her very existence was a statement of purpose and strength. The serpent, the embodiment of evil, understood this. He did not approach Eve because she was weak. He approached her precisely because she was powerful and central to God's unfolding plan. The serpent's strategy was to attack God's plan at its heart. He targeted the Im, the one designated to be a guardian and a life-giving partner. His goal was to sever the partnership between the man and the woman and, more importantly, their collective partnership with God. He twisted God's words, planting seeds of doubt and distrust. He presented a distorted view of God's character, suggesting that God was withholding something good from them. This was the first spiritual battle, and it was fought on the ground of identity and trust. The enemy sought to redefine Eve's purpose from a strong ally of God to a rival. Even in the tragedy of the fall, God's redemptive plan for the is immediately evident. In Genesis chapter 3, verse 15, God speaks a prophecy to the serpent, often called the proto-evangelium, or the first gospel. He declares that there will be enmity between the serpent and the woman, and between the serpent's offspring and her offspring. This prophecy places the woman and her descendants at the very center of the ongoing spiritual war against evil. It promises that her offspring will ultimately crush the head of the serpent. This is not a curse upon the woman, but a profound promise that restores her warrior calling. From that moment forward, Eve's legacy is twofold. It includes the tragedy of the fall, but it also contains the glorious promise of redemption and victory. She becomes the mother of all the living, the one through whom the promised seed would eventually come. Her story sets the stage for a long line of women who would rise up as, fighting to protect and preserve the covenant promise. They would face deception, oppression, and threats of annihilation. But through them, God's plan would move forward. Eve's story is the beginning of the bride's long and arduous journey back to her restored role as a courageous partner with God. The prophetic role of the did not end with Eve. It was carried forward through the matriarchs of Israel, Sarah, Rebekah, and others, who became crucial guardians of God's covenant promise. These women lived in a patriarchal world, yet they consistently acted with agency, wisdom, and a fierce determination to see God's will accomplished. Sarah, for example, is often remembered for her laughter of disbelief at the promise of a son in her old age. But her story is one of enduring faith over a lifetime of waiting. She wrestled with doubt, but she ultimately became the mother of Isaac, the long-awaited child of promise. Rebekah's story is another powerful example of an inaction. When Abraham's servant is sent to find a wife for Isaac, the sign he asks for is not one of beauty or wealth, but of extraordinary generosity and strength. Rebekah not only offers him a drink, but also draws water for all 10 of his camels, a task of immense physical labor. She demonstrates the heart of a servant and the strength of a warrior. Later, it is Rebekah who receives a direct prophecy from God about the two nations warring within her womb. She understands the divine plan for her sons, Jacob and Esau, and takes decisive, if morally complex action, to ensure that Jacob, the chosen one, receives the blessing. These matriarchs often operated in situations where the promise seemed to be in jeopardy. They faced barrenness, famine, and threats from powerful kings. Their husbands, the patriarchs, sometimes faltered in their faith or made poor decisions. In these critical moments, the women often stepped in. They were not passive bystanders in the drama of salvation history. They were strategic thinkers, courageous actors, and fierce protectors of the covenant line. Their actions, though sometimes flawed and messy, were used by God to steer history back toward His intended purposes, ensuring the survival of the lineage through which the Messiah would one day come. The stories of Sarah and Rebekah teach us that being an often means stepping into difficult and ambiguous situations. It requires a deep attentiveness to the voice of God and the courage to act, even when the path is not perfectly clear. They show us that God's plan is not dependent on perfect people, but is advanced through faithful, albeit imperfect, partners. These matriarchs were the essential link in the chain of promise, embodying the strength and wisdom of thee, and serving as a prophetic picture of the bride who actively guards and nurtures the purposes of God in the world. The calling is not only about preserving a lineage, but also about confronting direct threats of evil and annihilation. The stories of Ruth and Esther stand as towering examples of women who faced impossible circumstances and, through their courage and strategic action, brought about deliverance for their people. Ruth, a Moabite widow, found herself in a desperate situation with no social standing or future prospects. Yet, she makes a radical commitment of loyalty to her mother-in-law, Naomi, and to Naomi's God. Her famous declaration, "Where you go, I will go. Your people will be my people, and your God my God," is an act of profound faith and covenantal love. Ruth's story unfolds as she takes bold initiatives. She doesn't wait passively for a rescue. She goes out to glean in the fields, a provision for the poor, and strategically positions herself to be noticed by Boaz, a kinsman redeemer. Her actions are not manipulative, but are guided by wisdom and a deep trust in God's covenantal laws. Boaz recognizes her as a woman of noble character, a term that echoes the description of the Proverbs 31 woman. Through her courageous faith, Ruth not only secures her own future, but also becomes the great-grandmother of King David, placing herself directly in the messianic line. She is Anne who restores life and hope from the ashes of death and despair. Esther's story presents an even more direct confrontation with evil. As a Jewish queen in a foreign land, she finds herself in a position of influence when a plot is hatched by the wicked Haman to exterminate her entire people. Initially, she is fearful, as approaching the king unsummoned could mean her own death. But her uncle Mordecai challenges her with the unforgettable words, "And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this?" This question awakens her to her calling. She understands that her position and privilege are not for her own comfort, but for the salvation of her people. Esther responds with a plan that combines spiritual dependence and brilliant strategy. She calls for a 3-day fast, uniting her people in prayer, and then she courageously approaches the king. She uses her wisdom and influence to expose Haman's evil plot, ultimately saving the Jewish people from genocide. Esther becomes a warrior queen, a savior for her nation. Both Ruth and Esther demonstrate that he is called to be a force for justice and deliverance in the world. They show us that God places his people in strategic positions to confront evil, and that he calls them to act with courage, wisdom, and faith, trusting that he will work through them to bring about his purposes. The Proverbs 31 woman is often presented as the ultimate ideal of biblical womanhood, but honestly, she is frequently misunderstood. She is not a domestic goddess confined to the home, but rather a powerful, enterprising, and influential figure who operates with strength and wisdom in every sphere of life. The passage begins with a powerful question. A wife of noble character who can find? The Hebrew for noble character is, which can be translated as woman of valor, or woman of strength. This is actually the same term used to describe mighty warriors and men of wealth. She is, in essence, Anne, a strong and valiant helper. This woman of valor is a picture of incredible competence and industry. She is a businesswoman who considers a field and buys it, and from her earnings, she plants a vineyard. She is a manufacturer who manages a cottage industry, making and selling linen garments. She is a merchant whose trading ships bring food from afar. Her work extends far beyond the walls of her own home, impacting the wider community and marketplace. She is described as clothing herself with strength and dignity, and she can laugh at the days to come, indicating a deep-seated confidence that is not based on her circumstances, but on her preparedness and her trust in God. Her strength is not just economic or physical, it is also intellectual and spiritual. The text says that she speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. She is a teacher and a guide, not just for her children but for her entire household. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. He is respected at the city gate, in part because of the strength and stability she provides at home and in the community. She is a true partner, who stands face to face with her husband, and together they build a flourishing life that blesses everyone around them. The portrait of thee is not meant to be a checklist for women to follow, creating feelings of inadequacy. Rather, it is an inspiring vision of the fully alive and engaged in her calling. She embodies the integration of strength, wisdom, compassion, and enterprise. She is a prophetic picture of the bride of Christ in her restored state, strong, resourceful, influential, and unafraid of the future. She is a warrior in the marketplace, a sage in her home, and a pillar in her community. Her life demonstrates the beauty and power that is unleashed when a woman embraces her identity as a valiant partner with God. In the narrative of God's redemptive plan, no woman embodies the calling more profoundly than Mary of Nazareth. When the angel Gabriel appears to her, a young, humble girl from an obscure village, he brings a message that will change the course of history. He announces that she will conceive and give birth to the Son of the Most High, the long-awaited Messiah. This is the ultimate fulfillment of the promise made to Eve in the garden, that her offspring would crush the serpent's head. The destiny of the world hinged on the response of this young woman. Her partnership was essential for God's plan of incarnation to move forward. Mary's response is a model of faith and courageous submission. She does not respond with outright disbelief, but with a thoughtful question. How will this be, since I am a virgin? She is really processing the logistics of this impossible announcement. After the angel explains that the Holy Spirit will come upon her, she gives her history-altering consent. I am the Lord's servant. May your word to me be fulfilled. In that moment, Mary becomes the ultimate, the helper through whom God himself would enter the world. Her yes was an act of profound courage, as it exposed her to social shame, misunderstanding, and potential divorce or even death. Her song, the Magnificat, recorded in the Gospel of Luke, reveals the heart of a warrior. This is not the song of a meek and mild girl. It is a revolutionary anthem. She celebrates a God who scatters the proud, brings down rulers from their thrones, lifts up the humble, fills the hungry with good things, and sends the rich away empty. Mary understood that the birth of her son was an act of divine warfare, an invasion of God's kingdom into a world oppressed by sin and injustice. She saw herself as a partner in this great reversal, a participant in God's work of turning the world upside down. Mary's entire life was an act of partnership. She nurtured and protected Jesus, pondering all these things in her heart. She stood by him throughout his ministry and was there at the foot of the cross, enduring the unimaginable pain of watching her son die. Her journey shows us that being God's is not about a life of ease, but about a life of radical availability and courageous love. She is the prophetic fulfillment of the role, the human partner through whom the ultimate helper and rescuer came to save us all. Her story calls every member of the bride to offer their own yes to God's seemingly impossible plans. The Bible presents the great spiritual conflict of history, not just as a battle between abstract forces of good and evil, but as a dramatic confrontation between two symbolic female figures, the faithful bride and the great harlot. This powerful imagery, found most vividly in the book of Revelation, captures the ultimate choice facing humanity: covenant faithfulness to God, or idolatrous alliance with the powers of this world. The bride represents the people of God, washed clean, adorned in fine linen, and prepared for her bridegroom, Jesus Christ. She symbolizes purity, loyalty, and a deep, intimate partnership with God. Her identity is found in her relationship with her king. In stark contrast stands the harlot, also known as Babylon the Great. She is described as being dressed in purple and scarlet, glittering with gold, precious stones, and pearls. She holds a golden cup in her hand, filled with abominable things and the filth of her adulteries. She represents the world's systems of power, wealth, and pleasure that seduce people away from God. She is the ultimate anti-key, promising fulfillment, but delivering only slavery and death. She gets drunk on the blood of the saints, the martyrs of Jesus, highlighting her violent opposition to the people of God. She is the enemy of the bride. This cosmic struggle between the bride and the harlot is the backdrop for our lives of faith. Every day, we are faced with choices that align us with one or the other. The harlot's seductive call encourages us to find our security and identity in wealth, status, power, or pleasure. She tempts us to compromise our convictions for personal gain and to trust in the systems of the world rather than in God. Her influence is pervasive, subtle, and powerful. To resist her requires discernment, wisdom, and a firm commitment to our identity as the bride of Christ. It is a spiritual battle for our allegiance. The call to the bride is to come out of her Babylon, my people, so that you will not share in her sins. This is a call to be countercultural, to live differently. It means rejecting the idolatries of our age and cultivating a single-minded devotion to our bridegroom. It means embracing the calling to be a force for God's justice and righteousness, In a world dominated by the harlot's values, the victory of the bride is already assured. Revelation ends with the wedding supper of the Lamb, where the faithful bride is united with her King forever. This promised victory gives us the courage to live as the faithful bride today, resisting the harlot's allure and remaining true to our first love. The journey through Scripture, from Eve to Esther, from the Proverbs 31 woman to Mary, reveals a consistent and powerful truth. God's plan has always involved a strong, active, and essential partner. The warrior ally created in the garden, is the blueprint for the bride of Christ. Her story is not one of passivity, but of purpose. She is called to be a guardian of a promise, a fighter against evil, a builder of communities, and a courageous partner in God's redemptive mission. This is our inheritance. This is our identity. It is time for the bride to be fully restored to her glorious and powerful calling. The lessons from these biblical women are not just ancient history. They are intensely practical for us today. They teach us that our strength is not a threat, but a gift. They show us that wisdom involves strategic thinking and courageous action. They model a faith that is not afraid to engage with the messy realities of a broken world. Like Esther, we are called to recognize that we have been placed in our unique circumstances for such a time as this. We have a role to play in pushing back darkness, fighting deception, and bringing the hope and healing of the gospel to those around us. This is the work of the Embracing this role means we must actively resist the cultural messages that seek to diminish our calling, whether they come from the world or from within the church. It means rejecting the passivity of the waiting princess and embracing the strength of the warrior queen. It means seeing our daily lives, our work, our relationships, our community involvement, as the context for our partnership with God. We are His agents of restoration, His hands and feet in the world. We are called to speak with wisdom, to act with courage, and to live with a fierce and joyful love for our King. Therefore, let us rise up and embrace our identity as the bride of Christ in all its fullness. See yourself as part of God's grand, unfolding story. You are not an extra, you are a key player. God has created you to be a strong helper, a valiant partner in His kingdom work. Let the stories of the who have gone before you inspire you. Let the promise of the final wedding supper embolden you. Stand tall, clothed in strength and dignity, and laugh at the days to come. The bridegroom is coming for a bride who is not only beautiful, but also strong, wise, and ready for action.